Hello, guys, and welcome back to the new DM channel. It's been a long time since I've uploaded a video, and I apologize for that. Things got a little hectic once again. I'm hoping to get videos out the last quarter of the year 2023, October, November, December, and into early 2024, and be a little bit more consistent. Now that things seem to have settled down again in work wise and stuff. In the interim, I have been playing a lot of Dungeons and Dragons, and I've actually been running two campaigns a week. And what I wanted to talk about today was my Dragonlance campaign specifically, and also give a little kind of, I guess, not a tutorial per se, but just sort of my opinion on having DM'd this ongoing campaigns on a weekly basis for well, the other one was like every other Saturday. The things that I have learned specifically in the there's a big question, I guess, or debate. Yeah, I guess that's a better term. There's a debate that has always been raging in the community when it comes to RPGs and tabletop playing game. If you're a game master, what is the best way to approach? Like, do you homebrew your campaigns, or do you come up with your own worlds? Most people do that, or a lot of people do that. But a lot of people also play straight modules. Like, they'll take a module and a pre-written adventure, if you're not familiar with the term. Although if you played D&D, you probably have for a long time, like I have. You know what a module basically means: a pre-written adventure, and it tends to be linear in nature. Like, the characters or the party that are taking part of the adventure go from point A to point B to point C, or whatever, And then some people also call this a railroad, because you're on the rails. So the DM will present a scenario, and then you will follow it. And I have diverged from this pretty much in one of the campaigns, which I set in the Forgotten Realms. I did start out with a pre-written adventure, which was the famous Lost Mines of Phandelver, which comes with the starting set, the 2014 starting set for D&D 5e, which I can't believe it's been almost 10 years since it came. Next year, it's going to be like 10 years since that baby came out. So I was running a campaign there, but I didn't play it straight from the book. I mean, I took a lot of the NPCs and a lot of the material, like a lot of people do, and I, especially because that adventure has a built-in town that you can use, which is the town of Phandalin, and which is pretty famous now because of that's considered one of the best introductory adventures for 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. And I took that, but I kind of gave it my own spin, and I made some mistakes. I'm not gonna say that it was perfect the way I ran it, but I didn't go straight by the book. And a lot of it has to do with how your players react, what kind of players you have at your table, of course. And then the other campaign that is a little bit more recent, I've been running that in my hometown hobby store on Saturdays, and that started off in the world of Kryn, hence the Dragonlance background. So I'm going to briefly talk about how I approach running a more linear adventure, which is what the Dragonlance. There's only like really one Dragonlance based adventure for 5e so far, and that's the Shadow of the Dragon Queen for Dragonlance book. And it's broken down into, like a lot of these pre-made adventures are, episodic. You go from one level, and then the characters go to, like, by the time they end adventure, they have achieved multiple levels, and most of these are done through what they call the milestone system, as opposed to the older XP. Like your characters are gaining a certain amount of XP every time. Although for this campaign, I did use the XP because I wanted to kind of slow it down and just really get into the flavor of the Dragonlance universe and the world of Kryn and all that good stuff. So that's what I'm briefly going to touch upon today. But excuse me, before we go further, I would like to say that if you like this kind of content and you want more Dungeons and Dragons and gaming related content, go ahead and subscribe, and I will do my best to try to upload more videos. Like I said, this season, going into like the new year. All right, guys. So I was talking about the differences between a what they call a linear adventure. I wanted to make a video talking about how I approach the subject of whether you should run. Everybody DMs differently, and this year I've had been very fortunate of not only trying my hand at my own, trying to find my own style, and also observing how a couple of other of my friends do it, or co-players, if you will. And everybody has a different style for sure, and no one style, I guess, I found out is better than another. But my advice would be, if you're going to run a printed adventure, and obviously 5e has a bunch of even older systems have modules that you can print. My advice would be, especially the 5e ones though, which tend to be more chapter by chapter. There's a narrative where, because they're geared towards using the milestone, they're geared towards milestone experience versus actually doling out XP like in older systems and older modules. And by modules, again, I mean whatever the pre-written adventure happens to be, whether it's a short little booklet that you buy from third-party stores, or one of the $40-50 big books illustrated with multiple chapters and multiple scenarios that are supposed to take a character from level 1 all the way up to level 10 or level 20 if they're going max level. That's what I mean in terms of the linear modules and the linear adventures. And I have found that there's no way, most people don't run them cover to cover, and there's no way that you can pretty much stick to what the narrative is, unless you want to restrict your players into this scenario where they don't have a lot of what do you call it? They don't really, you limit their choices, and thereby they don't have a lot of agency. Their agency gets limited. But even if you do give them X number of choices, and by the way, I digress, but this is not a new topic. This has been, like I said, it's been a controversy or bounced around for quite a while in the community. But I feel as though moving forward, whatever happens next year, after, even if we're still playing 5e, well, let's face it, I mean, our group is going to be still playing 5e for a while. Everybody has the books, and they're not going to necessarily everybody like rush out and purchase. I don't even know if I'm going to get some of the new rule sets, because I'm pretty happy with the streamlined way that that Wizards of the Coast has the game. But be that as it may, or be that as it were, the narrative flow of a linear adventure is something that is really hard to do, and to go from chapter to chapter the way they have it set up as written. So what I've done, for example, I've been running, and you can see the background of Lord Soth, who is in the only 5e adventure, which is Dragon of the Shadow of the Dragon Queen. Excuse me, Shadow of the Dragon Queen, and it's a Dragonlance setting adventure, or an adventure rather, set in the Dragonlance world of Krynn. But I didn't run it straight from. I took some of the best NPCs. Including Lord Soth, although the characters will never really fight him because he's just too powerful for them when they're at lower levels, and even when they get to the higher levels, he's still a pretty big challenge. So he's kind of more like in the background. But I took those NPCs, and then another thing that I did is I had invested in the Horde of the Dragon Queen module before, and if you know Horde of the Dragon Queen and the Rise of Tiamat, which is the follow-up, they put them into one book now. I think that when they redid it, I forget what, Tyranny of Dragons, I think. But whatever that is called, it's a 2-book adventure, and it's pretty good. But it gets a lot of flack because it was one of the first adventures that Wizards of the Coast put out. But the main adversary, the main foe that you go up against at the end of that the double book, or at the end of the second book, if you follow it the way it's supposed to go as a progression from book 1 and book 2, the main antagonist is Tiamat, who also happens to be the antagonist of or one of the main antagonists of Shadow of the Dragon Queen. Tiamat is not referred to as Tiamat in the world of Kryn. He goes by Takisis, different names. Some people say it's a different creature. I think it's all the same or close enough. So I combined the two and I made one big adventure out of it, and it works really great because some of the, especially the second book on the Tiamat series, is more exploratory council meetings. The characters do some things, they go on quests, and then they come back and they talk to the council of the and I should say that the Rise of Tiamat book, the Tiamat books, Tyranny of Dragon, as they're now known in the collected edition, that adventure two-part adventure module is set in the Forgotten World. It's not even set in the Dragonlance world of Kryn, but it doesn't matter because you have the flexibility as a DM to turn it into whatever world you want. So I took Greenest, and if you know the adventure, Greenest is being attacked by a blue dragon in the very first chapter, and I plopped it into Kryn. Now there's a little bit of anachronism there because supposedly if you read the novels, the dragons having been seen in like thousands of years, and they're barely coming back to the world, but it doesn't really matter. You can find a narrative, if you're creative enough, you should be able to find a narrative reason for for at least that one blue dragon to still be sticking around, and I did. So I guess in conclusion, I would say linear versus sandbox, which is what they term like a game world that it's expanded, versus a homebrew. It doesn't really matter. You should run whatever you feel comfortable with. But if you are using a linear adventure or a pre-written narrative, something like Dragonlance, there's a lot of lore behind it. You can go online or look at the old systems, and you can find a lot of supplemental materials for it. I myself bought this book called it's like a softcover book, and it was published in the 80s. That's at the same time that Dragonlance Adventures came out, and I bought it for like $2 at a used bookstore. I got really lucky, but I never really read it until this year, and it's released from the Inn of the Last Home. And if you read the Dragonlance series, at least the original trilogy, you are very familiar with the Inn of the Last Home. And but it has it's a lore book. It's a setting book. It has a lot more lore actually than some of the lore that's presented in the current 5e book. It expands on some of the races like the Kender. And I highly recommend doing that. If you can go to a thrift store or wherever you can find this sort, or you can go online on Amazon or eBay or whatever, and sometimes you can find really good deals, and that way you can combine one pre-written adventure. And if you don't like some of the elements, it's a little too railroady, or it doesn't do it enough for you in terms of exploration or combat or whatever aspect of the game you want to emphasize, then you're free to mash up. And you're free to use other sources, and that's what I do. And I think you should too. You try it out and see if you like it. And if you don't, you can always homebrew your own. Or it's a lot more work to do that. But everybody's style is different. And finding my voice, finding my DMing style this year and a half or so that I've been DMing this one consistent group has really been one of the great rewards of actually participating in a non-player role, which I also do in another game. So that's it for now. Don't want this videos to be too long. If you like the content, or if you want to elaborate on what your DM style is like, or how you like to run modules, go ahead and feel free to leave me a comment. And I'm gonna be back with these videos more consistently. Fingers crossed. Knock on wood. And thank you so much for being here and supporting the channel. And I will talk to you guys another time. Probably next week.